everybody. Welcome back to another great episode of Make More Sales podcast by Gain the Edge, the show that explains the truth behind making effortless sales while focusing on your zone of genius. Right? I'm Jim Padilla, and today we're going to be talking about why the better you talk, the more money you make. Yes, it's a reality, right? The better you can communicate, the better you talk, the more money you make. We're going to discuss the ins and outs of making effective sales through listening and connecting through stories, okay, and offering insights and solutions along the way. And if you stick around to the end, I've got something special that I want to invite you to. As always, make sure that you get connected with us, right? Go to the show notes and find all of our solutions. You'll see them in there, right? All the different ways to connect with us. And we definitely want to hear from you. And one way for you to hear from us that we really want to get you set up on is at our Instagram account. Get on the IG, right? Go to at Gain the Edge Now and at makemore.sales.podcast. So you can get connected to us. We'll make sure that you're always up to speed on what's happening in our world, when the next podcast episode's coming. And more importantly, you have access to us. So any questions you have around sales, scaling, growing your business, storytelling, or you just want to let me know what's going on in your world, I'm always happy to hear from you. All right. That's how you can reach out, and we encourage you to. So the more you do, the better we can help. Right. So if you are on this podcast, then you probably want to know more about sales, right? That's the name of the game, right? But the stuff they don't teach you in school, right? They don't teach you sales in school, right? They don't teach you how to be confident. They don't teach you how to be out in the world and make a way for yourself, right? And that's unfortunate because we all need to be able to sell, to be able to enroll people into our vision, our dream, our mission, and what we're doing, okay? But that is what our special guest is here to do today. Right. This guy has consulted and advised and led workshops for more than 500 companies in 25 different countries. He's legit. He's the real deal. He's a great guy. You're going to love him. I've gotten to know him a little bit, been in some masterminds together, and I wanted to make sure that I could bring him to you because I love the way he approaches sales with storytelling. Let's welcome Stephen Steers. All right, Stephen, so glad to have you here, my friend. As the intro just said, you got a lot of things going on, and really glad that we've come across each other recently. And I love your perspective on sales and the storytelling angle. And, I'm really excited to dive into that with people today and just really help them unpack not only the importance of storytelling in selling, but how easy it is to tap into it that they just might not even be aware of. Right.
Definitely.
So why don't you tell us a bit about you and how you got here? What's the story of Stephen?
It's the story of Stephen. I'm a New York City native, born and raised, actually from New York City. I currently live in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, because the city got to be a little much for me during all the stuff of 2020. But how did I get into sales? I suppose I've been doing it a large part of my life, but didn't know that's what it was. I'd sell ice pops to make some money to buy clothes or whatever as I was a kid. But I'd say the most formative time in my life when I realized that selling was a way to get what you want was when I graduated college in the recession of 2009 area. There was just no jobs and there was just nothing you could do. So I started just walking around really upset one day around the street, and I found a shelf, nice, perfect bookshelf that I could pick up and carry. And I walked it back to my parents' house. I scrubbed it down and I painted it and I put it on Craigslist. It's my first digital ad I ever sent. And then I sold it for $40. Then I'd walk around again and I'd find more things. And then one thing led to another where I was like, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I realized that if you can sell, you can have a company. And it just kind of went down the rabbit hole from there. But what I really notice about sales, it's a skill for life. And most people are afraid of it. It's a 4-letter word for most people. And once you realize it's really about helping people solve their problems, it's not throwing things at them, it becomes a different game altogether, and you'll see a lot more value coming out of your company and whatever you're doing and helping people. That's kind of how I got started in it.
Yeah, totally. And it's always funny how you started doing it before you started officially doing it, right? It's like most of the time, the thing you're doing, you were already doing. Now you just put a label to it, right? Like, now you just say, hey, by the way, I'm saying we kind of do the same thing. And we were talking about, I spent years coaching high school athletes, and I played baseball in college stuff. And we found that usually the team captain was already doing it. And that's what makes it easy. Oh, that's the captain. They're already following her. They're already listening to him, So then you just give them the title. And too many times we try to make somebody a leader instead of just finding
Yeah.
the leader and giving them the title.
Yep. Well said.
All right. So let's talk about the storytelling angle. Why effective sales is about listening and connecting through stories. Why is that relevant?
Absolutely. I think for anybody who's made it to the level that we're talking about for this podcast, right? 6, 7 figures, some 8 figures or whatever, you really realize it's solving, it's not selling, right? So sales, like people say it's a 4-letter word because they feel like they're getting pressured into getting something that they don't necessarily need. They're not educated enough to make a good decision. Solving a problem is doing great discovery. Great qualification is probably the most important and most overlooked part of anyone's sales process. They're hoping somebody just wants to buy something and they're pitching to people instead of asking relevant questions to understand the context. Why are we talking at all? Why are we discussing this particular problem? Why is this a priority for you? What does all that look like? And so effective listening is about asking people questions that get them talking, that get them to open up and to uncover really what the problem is, so you can start to address the overall cause of the problem as well as the direct problem itself, and turn yourself into a real partner for that business and for the outcomes they're looking for, instead of just someone who has something to sell.
Yeah, definitely. Partnership is it's an interesting angle that people don't think about a lot. It always tends to be this adversarial thing. And I always, the easiest visual for me is, the old school image of a salesperson is you're on one side of the desk and they're on the other side. Right. And it's like, for me, it's either come to the other side of the desk or remove the desk altogether. But
Yes.
you should both be on the same side, moving in the same direction to solve the same problem together. And then it's just a whole different perspective.
Yeah,
You
it
know?
completely is. And I think it gets people's guard down too, because like when I say qualification is the most important and most overlooked thing, when we get our first discovery call, first call with anybody, we got to ask for their permission to ask questions. And when you ask for their permissions and you set the tone, people are like, yeah, cool. Like, you're not trying to throw something at me. You just want to understand where I'm at and know if this works for both of us. And when you can do that well and listen well, people will trust you. And as you know, sales is know, like, and trust. The faster you can build it, the faster we can all win.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about everybody listening here. They're like, okay, yeah. I get it. It's selling and it's telling, not selling. And yeah, stories sell, blah, blah, blah. But really, I mean, are you guys telling stories? Are you embedding this in yourselves into the story?
We're
Are you
doing it.
reeling people in by how you share what you share, or are you telling them information? Right. So what do they need to be aware of, right now? Like what is it? What is the thing that most people are convinced themselves of that probably isn't real? And then what do we need to do to transition them to start really embracing stories?
Okay. So what is a story? I'll put it for anybody listening here. You probably have on a shirt or a nice pair of shoes or whatever you're wearing. You probably tried it on before you wore it out of the house or wore it anywhere, right? A story is how you get people to try on new concepts, new information, and new things. It's a nice way to set the tone and to understand things. So, how do we use this? Why is this important? Think about it, especially in a discovery situation or someone's giving you an objection. One of the best things you can do during objection is say, hey, yeah, we talked to Judy over at this company last month. She's one of our newest clients. She was experiencing an exact similar problem that you're experiencing. With this little twist, here's one of the bigger problems she had. When she came to us, this was an incredible stress for her. What we did is we ran them through our methodology, X, Y, and Z. And within 3 months, we were able to take them from 2 booked meetings a month to 25 meetings a month. And we've started increasing the number of qualified appointments that they're getting in general and their close rate as a result of that. Now, why is that a good example or a potential example? There's a quote I love, I absolutely love. It's by one of these old Greek guys named Horace, right? The guy that only has one name, right? You don't need any other name for these guys. But he says, you need change only the name and the stories about you.
Yeah.
So stories are important because they help people see themselves in the action. And remember, if we're solving and we're not selling, if we outline a problem and we show that we've helped solve it for someone already and that somebody else has also experienced the problem, you get emotional parity. And in sales, if you've sold anything in your life, you'll realize, yeah, the ROI is extremely important. But when you do the research, actually, and I've done a fair amount of research on this, 95% of decisions are made subconsciously. 5% are with the logic. So you need to be able to tell different stories or create different scenarios where you allow for the emotion to get in so people can trust you and say, this problem can be solved by you. And
Right.
that's some of the power of stories. And if people don't understand that, you're going to see it in your close rate.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And just to echo what Stephen was just saying about it, technically 100% of the decision is made with emotion and then is justified with logic, because the limbic brain, the part of our brain that makes decisions, doesn't process logic. It only processes emotion. So we actually have to get somebody to an emotional state of them feeling confident, smart, hopeful, whatever it is that's going to get them the feeling of being over the hump. And for those of you who are saying already, I can hear you saying, "Oh, but what about the detail people and the engineers? They're not emotional. They're logic." No, they like to see all the I's dotted and T's crossed because it makes them feel warm and fuzzy. That's why. So there's still a
That's
feeling
emotional too.
associated.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So
And then also too, right? There's two different kinds of sales, right? There's top up, bottom down. If you're selling to the C-suite, there's a different type of narrative that they might want to solve, right? So in business, B2B sales specifically, there's 4 reasons people buy anything: make money, save money, increase efficiency, mitigate risk. Everybody has their own KPI they're tracking for. So you need, if you want to do well at this, right? If you're selling at the enterprise, what is it? 7 or 8 people before you get a decision, not including incumbent services or other people you're going to have to answer to or answer questions about.
right.
You're going to need to have some type of story about how your product does all of those 4 things, depending on who you're talking to, because they're going to say yes based on how it affects their career and their job.
Yes.
So you better be paying attention to stuff like this.
That's so good. Give me an example. I'm sure you've got one where, a lot of people listening right now, they're talking to people and there's a stakeholder. Maybe you're dealing with a solopreneur. There's still a stakeholder called the
Yes.
wife, called the kids. Like, oh, if I jump into this, it might mean I don't get to take the kids on vacation this year because I'm using that money to invest in this solution. What's the story? What's at stake? Who are the other stakeholders, and how do you tell a story that helps them, that the person who's buying, be able to lean into that comfortably?
Yeah, love the question. So I think the first place to start before we tell any stories, right? So my methodology is called Superpower storytelling. It's the 3 audiences you're going to encounter in your business life or your life. It's the 3 questions you need to ask before you tell a story. And it's the 3 types of stories you have. So I figure since we're talking directly about that, I'll share a little bit more about that so people can start to think how we think about it. The 3 audiences you're going to encounter: your prospects, right? People you want to do business with. This can be anyone who's encountering your product on a phone type of situation. It's going to be your investors, right? Think of this as people who are giving you money to grow your business. And then think of it as marketing, things you're putting out in a text format or content to put in front of people. Those are the 3 audiences you're going to have. Within those, depending on who we're talking to, we're going to need to tell a different type of story. And we need to answer these key 3 questions to know what is going to work well. So the first question, most important question, I think, is what does the audience want to learn or achieve? Okay. So if we're talking to a CFO, what does success look like? Or what is the opaque part of the business that the CFO is going to want to know specifically about to say this checks my box and passes my test? And I would therefore recommend that this be going towards the CFO, the CEO. For an engineer, what is the thing that they want to learn about their work that I can share with them? We need to be able to share this with every single person. What do they want to learn or achieve? Because the story is about the audience. It's not about us. That's 1. 2, what do you want them to feel? We've been talking about emotions. We have to get emotions involved here. We have to. It's absolutely important, because we need to remember in sales, we're humans solving human problems in a business context. Their role is just something they do. It's not who they are. But we want to make sure that we're leaving room to attach those 2 things together. And then third, right? What's the most important part of a call? We need to have next steps. So what do we want them to do next now that they know our story, know the information, and et cetera? We need to have those things labeled. So what I recommend people do before a call, write out these things. Know what your mission is. You use a call script. You should. I don't care how seasoned you are in sales. I always tell people freestyling's for skiers and for rappers. Have a script. Know what questions you want to answer, because calls can go off the rails a little bit, but you got to bring them back to know if they're a fit for everybody. Have those things written down. Have your mission. Know what you're helping them understand. and then guide them towards the appropriate landing spot. So answering specifically your question, how do we know which story to tell? There's 3 stories you have. You have stories of your mission, right? So why are you choosing to solve this problem over other solutions, right? So quick example, somebody's coming to you with an objection. Oh, I don't know if this is for me. You could use a mission story and you say, yeah, I've heard that before. And that's exactly why I decided to work at this company and build this particular product. This is a thing I've seen too many times. I've been in the exact same position as you. And I quite frankly just can't stand that there's nothing that exists to solve this problem. That's why I decided to commit myself to making sure people like you, people like me, never have to deal with this problem again. And then you could share a little more detail around what that looks like for you. But again, you've built emotional parity. You've absorbed the objection, and then you've given them back context and let them know a little bit more personally about you, what that looks like. So that's a mission story. The next is a vision story. So this is what happens when your mission is complete, right? So think about this as your overarching goal for the entire company. This is what you want to achieve. I want to help 100,000 entrepreneurs reach 8 figures in revenue or whatever it is for your thing, right? What this does is a couple of things. Number one, it helps people who want to be part of a massive vision find you. This can help with talent. This can help with people who are your exact tribe of the people you solve an issue for. They're going to find you, say, yes, I want to be part of that story. Also, when we come to talent too, having a vision for your company helps people know if what they're doing is going to help your ship go faster, move more efficiently, and everything else. So if they're ever like, oh, I don't know, and they ask you a question, and you're the CEO or the head or an executive, you point to the mission, the vision, and say, hey, does what you're asking about help this happen? And if they can say yes, there's always a path forward to move things together, right? And as I always say, big visions draw big crowds. So make your vision grand and aspirational and include that in the way you help people see themselves in achieving that vision. People want to be part of a great story. It's just a fact. It's just what our species is. And then the third type of story is a milestone story. And these are tales of adversity. These are talking about similar customer stories who've had really bad years in sales and then came to work with you, Jim, and you've taken them to massive heights with clarity and SOPs and everything they need to really be scaling up. These could also be things you've experienced in your life that were really difficult, like hard things, like really hard things. And I think the most powerful stories are milestone stories because they show agency. You've been through something really hard. It sucked, but you didn't quit. And then since you didn't quit, look what you've accomplished. These are like the essence of the hero's journey of the human experience. And these get people to really say, oh, wow, I can identify with it. Now, when you have that framework ready, now you have the different type of stories. And then it becomes a matter of what context do we deploy these things in order to build rapport deeper and faster.
Hey, Jim Padilla here. And we know that one of the biggest challenges with making sales is having the right people to talk to. If you can't talk to people, you can't make offers. You can't make offers, you can't make sales. And then life is a problem for you. Go to the show notes here. Check out what's going on in our 5 proven steps to fill your calendar with qualified and easy, ready leads in our Leads Made Easy program. So we're given that. We got a bonus that's inside the show notes here. Go take advantage of that. Check it out. Implement that process and let us know how it goes for you because we would love to see your calendar full with the right appointments. You can have the right conversations with the right people at the right time about the right things. Yeah, that's great. I love that. And I love the big visions draw big crowds. I firmly agree. And that's, I mean, our life has been an exhibition of that. People get excited. They get excited about people who are excited.
Exactly. Yeah.
Excitement is contagious.
It is.
And they hear you have something big. They're like, oh man, that's great. If at the very least, they want to observe it. Even if they don't want to participate in it, because now they have some, it fires them because most people don't. Most people live in a very small bubble,
Yeah, I completely agree with you, man. People, you need to, boldness is, what does they say? Fortune favors the bold.
Yes, very much
right?
so. We've been doing a lot of training on offers, and I like the milestone story because there's a component of the offers that we talk about where it's something that we've adapted from Alex Hormozy's offers section.
Incredible book.
But that book up there, absolutely. That's why it's on demand. So right, it's one of my featured books. I'm doing a deep dive on it. But it talks about the concept around the believability of the process, right? What's the resistance to it? And most of the time, it's going to be hard work. There's going to be
Yes.
friction. It's going to be hard work. It's going to be a lot of effort, and it's going to take me a long time. So sometimes you don't have a solution. Sometimes, like if I want washboard abs, you can't say, okay, I'm going to give it to you in 60 days. It might be 12 months. I don't want to wait 12 months. But if you can give me a milestone story, you're talking about, Stephen, who was also in the same situation, and he wanted washboard abs. He was on a 12-month journey, but in 90 days, we got him to a place where he could ride for 25 miles in a day. Right. Or you telling a milestone story, right? That fits that, right?
It
And so
totally
you're
does.
showing him 30 days in, here's what we did for him. 60 days in, he stopped eating sugar. But so we know he didn't have washboard abs, but you got him on a journey. And so you're letting him know, yeah, it's still going to be hard work, but you're winning,
And
right?
you're
You're
not
telling the
alone.
story. Yes.
And you're not alone.
Right.
Right. When we're talking about difficulty, nobody wants to. The reason most people don't ask for help because they feel like they're by themselves.
Yeah.
And then when somebody finally gets the buck up to say, yeah, like I need some help with this, they want to know that they're not the only person who's ever experienced this. They want to know and trust that I'm working with Jim. Jim's done this for hundreds of people, if not thousands of people. I know he has a process. I want to work with Jim. I need to work with Jim. Jim's got me. It's going to be hard, but I have the right resources and right people with me to help me on this journey that I know I want.
Right. Right. So when somebody is, like everybody's got stories. I mean, that's millions. Everybody's got millions, if not at least a
Yeah,
couple,
totally.
right? At least a couple. You can start with. How do they determine which one's first? Which story do they start working on?
Yeah. And the answer is it depends. It completely depends. When I work with people on this, I have them just, hey, write down every type of story that's been influential or interesting in your life, good ones, bad ones, terrible ones. And then I say, hey, give me your top ones. Which ones are you really, really excited about? Which ones get you going in an emotional level? And I think it's really important that the emotional level that you get out of the story is important because it needs to mean something to you for it to mean something to the people you're sharing it with.
Yes.
Right.
Say
So
that again.
it needs to mean something to you if it's going to mean something to the people you're sharing it with. And so there's another way I like to think about stories is the whole reason you tell a story is to help your audience, whatever audience that is, better tell their own story. That's it, right? You're revealing a part of yourself or a part of your customers' stories to help them say, I too can be part of this journey. I too can achieve great results, all of that, et cetera. So choosing which story to tell kind of depends on the context, right? So if we're talking classical on the phone sales, milestone stories are great to answer the three type of objections you have. This is too expensive. Is this going to work for me? Is now the right time? Those work great. You probably have a few of those, right? So you could, when I say this to everybody as well, I think executives, I think salespeople, you all have your own version of this, and that's what makes it work well. You're not taking this canned thing and like, oh, we're this. It's like, no, my life. Here's how I've experienced the same challenge. There's parity. We're of the same ilk in this. So in a sales context, the milestone stories work super well. The mission stories also can work well, and vision stories are great on stage, right? So if you're talking on a podcast, you're talking on you get excited in an article or something like this. Anything that's thought leadership, vision stories are some of your best. Mission stories work super well. But how to find which story works well, I think you're going to want to, like, if you're not working with someone like myself for it, I would say write down all of your core stories that are really just important to your life, that are founding moments, fundamental to who you really are, and then take them to someone you trust and say, hey, like, which one of these is really my signature thing? Which one of these makes you think of me and like helps me represent myself well to the world? Find someone you trust for that. And then the real work begins of cutting it down and editing it so that it is something that you can share that's not an emotionally burdensome story. This is also important. You want to conjure emotion, but you don't want to get people sad and upset, right? You want to create an arc, right? So this is where the fine tuning happens. But I'd say just write down the stories that you have that are really important to you. Find someone you trust, share them with them, and then think immediately of those three questions you got to answer. What do they want to learn or achieve? What emotions do you want them to feel? And what do you want them to do next? That will kind of guide which story will work well with the least amount of work. And then we start filling them out from there.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to put you on the spot in a second.
Okay.
I like when I meet comedians. I'm like, okay, tell me a joke.
Oh no, I am a comedian too, so that's fun.
I know that ain't fair, but it is what it is. So I would love to if you have a quick story that will pull everybody here on that's on that journey right now. They're trying to build, they're shooting for summits. Most of them just don't know the steps to take. Right? They're
Mm.
trying to find. They're clamoring. They're like, I want this. I just don't know how to get there. And what's the story that you can help share to what can inspire them in that
Shoot
moment?
for the summit. Yeah. Back in, so around that same time of the recession of 2009, looking for jobs hardcore every day, applying to 10, 20 jobs online every day. No luck. It gets so bad to the point because I have student loans due. And so I am walking around my house. I live with my parents, of course, because I had $2.96 to my name at that time after I graduated college.
Yeah.
And I'm walking around. My brothers are still living at home with my parents too. And I talked to my eldest brother. I was like, yo, man, I got a student loan due in a couple of weeks. Like, I'm super stressed about this. I'm 22 years old. And he's like, what are you doing for this? And I was like, I'm applying to jobs. I don't know what else to do. And he's like, well, why don't you go walk around to bars and ask if they need people in restaurants? And I was like, no, I don't have to do that. Like, I'm a college educated kid. Like, people are going to be hitting down my door. That's what they tell you anyway, right?
Right.
And then another day passes, another week passes. And I was like, I'm in dire straits here. So I buck up, print out some resumes, and just go to Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And I just start to find some bars I want to go to. And I'm telling you, this was like the first time I had to put myself out there. And I'm sitting out front of this bar and I'm like, I got to go ask for a job. Like, I shouldn't have to do that. I'm smart. I'm capable. I'm happy, like whatever, all this mental mess that I'm having. And I almost vomited because I was so nervous, but I ran in, threw the resume down, ran out, and then wound up doing 10 that day, did 10 the next day, and then did that for a week. And then I had a couple of jobs at the bars. I think I had 3 jobs at the time. Anyway, fast forwarding a little bit, I'm working Sunday night at this bar in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and I'm a bar back. So my job is to take out the trash.
Yes.
It's one of the things. And I would do it right when I got in because I didn't want people to see me taking out the trash. I was ashamed of it. So I'm loading up. This is weekends worth of trash. It's a bar on a Friday night, all day Saturday, and then all day Sunday. So it's mountains and mountains of trash. And there's this alleyway in the back of the bar. And they have a restaurant at the bar. They make po' boy sandwiches and the like. And I have to squeeze myself past this 54-gallon drum of spent fryer oil back to get all the trash. And I'm doing this. And around 8:30, I get down to the last bag, which is right next to the barrel of fryer oil. And this bag is stuck fast in this can. And I'm pulling it as hard as I can. It's not coming down. I squat down, I pull up my pants really high. And then I was like, you're coming out. And I pull it. Boom. There was a handle of liquor in there, which catches the lid of the 55-gallon drum of fryer oil, causing it to fall over onto me and into the bar. Now, thankfully, it was cold.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it wasn't hot oil, but it all happened in slow motion. You get that heat when you just mess up, like you just absolutely catastrophic failure. 54 gallons of oil are spilling into this bar. And I was like, covered in like old food. It's just so disgusting. And I dropped the trash bag on the floor and I was like, I'm going to quit. I'm walking out here to quit. And as I turn the corner, get into the bar and look at the bartender, I remember I don't have anywhere else to go. I don't have a job anywhere else. I don't have anyone I can call. I don't know anybody at this age. And I got a student loan payment due in a couple of weeks. So I don't have anybody. I'm literally at the lowest point in my life. Absolutely just don't know what to do. And I don't know where it came from, but something said, hey, make this the lowest point in your life and make something of yourself out of this. Tell people the story when you're ready. And so you asked how to motivate somebody to do something. I had $2.96 in my pocket. I had $80,000 in student loan debt. I had no network. I don't know anybody. And I'm covered in old food and oil. And then I had to clean it up, right? And then pay student loans with all the money I made that weekend. I don't have debt anymore because of sales. I'm out of debt. I live in a foreign country. I work for myself. And I'm able to help people understand that they can do that for themselves. So what's a motivational way to do it? I would just say to anybody, you've probably been through something really tough. Don't you dare forget it. Put it at the forefront of what you do, because who you are is the most interesting and most important thing about what you do. And that helps people trust you. And that's your differentiator in the marketplace. I don't care what your solution is, what service you offer. There's probably 10, 20, 100 people who do the same thing. But there's one you that needs to be the thing I'm able to access as quickly as possible, because now I know, hey, I'm on the same team with Jim. And now I want to learn more about how Jim approaches business, and Jim can help me with this because I like Jim as the man first. And I think a lot of people lose that, and I want to help them regain it.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. There's two things about, I'm curious on your perspective. We always teach people that every story is contractible, right? Expands and it contracts. You should have a 30-second version, 3-minute version, and a 30-minute version, right? Of
Yes,
that
absolutely.
story. And so like if you were going to tell that in 30 seconds, I'm sure you have a shrunk down, but impactful, you're
It's the
highlighting the
podcast
point.
version, yeah.
Yeah. Right. And but then the other thing is, I bet I'm guessing that you've told that story in tears at times too.
The first time I told it, I cried
Yeah.
at a
Because
workshop.
one of the best pieces of wisdom I think I ever got from speaking and telling was always be under the influence of the story you're telling, and because I can imagine you telling that story, sometimes laughing your butt off because you look back at it and you go, what a pathetic picture that I created for myself. Or, and at other times you might just be like, God, it just brings back the emotions or what you were feeling. And, you know,
Yes.
um, but if you guys try to tell the same story the same way every time, I think that's when you get into trouble, right? Because now you start
Yeah.
trying to make it look a certain way.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I do a decent amount of public speaking. I was on the board of my Toastmasters club, and so I've mentored a few people on it. That's one of the key reasons I don't memorize word for word anything I do. I do the bullet points, the key parts. If I'm doing stand-up comedy, I memorize the punchline and a nice little transition in or out. But it's got to be there. You got to be there. And I think the bullet points are a great way to keep you locked in. Like it's like a call script. You're going to ask different things in between, but you know the beats you need to hit to get people there, and to make it land well, and to make sure you're there in the moment as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I always, I've told stories of my childhood hundreds and hundreds of times, and I was in an abused environment, and just it was never been from a pity perspective, but it's real and it's raw, and it's the stuff that's led me to be who I am now. And there's times when I tell it and I can barely get the words out because I'm back there as
Yeah.
this kid being tormented, and then there's other times I tell it and maybe I'm crying, and there's other times I might be a little angry, like what the hell was my mom thinking. And then there's times when I tell it just like, hey, grateful. It made me the man I am. It's just
Yes.
be under the influence of the moment
Yes.
when you tell the story, and it will
Absolutely.
be
And it
you.
lands. It
Yes,
helps land, right? Yeah.
totally,
Yeah.
totally. So how do people get? How do you help people? How do they come to you and say, "Hey, Stephen, help me tell my story. Help me put this into my process."
Yeah, I'd love to work with venture capital backed startups and a few corporate sales teams. And it's anybody who wants to increase close rates and be more authentic in the way that they sell what they sell. Remember, I say the better you talk, the more money you make. That's intentional, because if you are able to articulate yourself well, you're able to speak from a place of power. And when I say power, I mean, you know yourself well enough to know why you're doing what you're doing. That always comes through in everything you do. And what I find, since I've spent most of my career in sales, that's just missing. A lot of people, they just automatons. They're not really there. They're just clicking the buttons and sending the things, and the customers can tell. And that's what I found is a thing. So I do workshops on this. I teach a couple of different frameworks specifically around how to say what you're saying the right way, and then also some techniques for writing speeches and other things like that to get people prepared and out there in the market the right way.
Perfect. So I know you have a resource to share with people, which will be in the show notes, guys. All of his contact, all the ways to reach him, LinkedIn and Facebook, and all the places to connect. But he's also got a resource that he was going to bring that was going to help you get a little more perspective on getting your story dialed in.
Yeah, and that is the presentation planning guide. So it's a free sheet that outlines all the questions you need to ask, ways to prepare for a speech. You could think of it, but actually you could think of it for a sales call or whenever you're out there, even the barista, anybody you interact with. Being able to speak well builds great relationships. And the thing is, I'll stand on this, I'll die on this hill. You never know who people know. And when you give them a story, you're able to be in rooms that you don't even know of yet. Because I can say, hey, I know Jim. He was a collegiate baseball player, etc. And I can have that conversation, and that can spurn something else. Oh, I want to meet Jim.
Right.
Now it goes in. So a story is a business card more than anything else now, because people aren't handing out business cards the same way. So that's one way I like to think about it for people. It's a business card that helps you be in rooms that you're not even in.
Yeah. It was just reminding me too. We're in the middle of working with people in our mastermind. The month of April, we have a mission to create a playlist, a YouTube playlist of why would people buy from me? Right. So it's just gonna be a series of 2-minute videos, and I'm doing one with them. So my first one is, what is outsourced sales? Then it's, why would somebody want to outsource sales? And it's, what are all the mistakes people make? Right. Each one is just 2 minutes, but uh, I want it to be, I really want to focus on making each one of those just a quick story.
It'd be great on TikTok too, man.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So that, think about that. Like, once you got the story, it can be deployed anywhere.
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 Anywhere. Yeah. It's such a cheat code. And I always like to say it helps you be the most interesting person in the room. Because instead of saying, oh, I'm the chief marketing officer of this company on revenue, you say, hey, I got into marketing because my first company failed and I didn't know what to do. And a couple of years later, and you get into it, a couple of years later, here I am as the head of marketing at one of the largest conglomerates out here. And I make sure that we don't have those types of problems. Oh, you're a real person. You're not just a position in a company. And I don't know about you, but I'm tired of all the pomp and circumstance. Your title doesn't mean anything to me. Are you a real person with good character, good values? And the faster you can get those things towards me is the faster that I'm going to want to work with you. And that's what I want to put out in the marketplace.
Hey, man, that's awesome. I think it's a great point to close on. It's something that we teach often, something I say, and I can't get away with it. Neither can you, because we're both sales experts. But I tell people all the time, give yourself permission to not be perfect at sales. And even when you get on a phone call, if you're nervous, the more nervous you are, just tell them. If I get on a phone call with you and I'm sweating bullets because I got to sell this thing to you, first thing I'm going to say is, Steven, I just want to let you know I'm a little nervous, and I am world class at solving your problem. I'm just not world class at selling it. So give me a little grace. Right. And then now I'm going to add, now I can mix in a little story. I can just share. Can I just tell you a little bit about me for a quick second? Right.
Great.
Now, all of a sudden it puts you at ease so that you can now then put them at ease.
And then I love that. I tell people to do something like that on stage. So I'm a little nervous, just so everybody's clear. They're giving you, like, you got licensed now, which is awesome. And then I love the other part of that too. It's a nice little psychological move where it's like, oh, thank you for letting me share that. And now you're together. Yeah, it's great. Well done.
Yeah, no, I like that. I'm definitely gonna insert that. I think that's just the smartest thing to do. Just show up and quickly tell the story in 60 seconds.
Be human. Be human. Like it's like level one. Like, be human first. You're a human. So who buys your things? Humans buy your things. That's the person you need to talk to. Talk to the person and then share about the problem. Not rocket science, but also not done a ton from what I've seen. So hopefully I'm employed a long time.
Absolutely. All right, guys, make sure that you're getting connected. Reach out to Steven, tell him where you came from, tell him, we said hello, tell him that you heard him on the Make More Sales podcast. And, bottom line is, no matter what, I know you guys are outwardly, mobile, and you guys are out there looking for all the right things. And simply put, you don't have everything. You haven't made it yet, and you're not there yet. So trust the systems and the resources. I know you all trust me. So you trust Steven by default because you trust the people I bring to you. Jump out, find out for yourself, have a conversation with him, and see where else he can lead you. So I'm honored to have you on here, man. It's great conversation. I look forward to bringing you back in and continuing the conversation and the flow. As always, guys, thank you for trusting us to be part of your success team. What you do matters, and you deserve to be paid well for it. And that is what we stand for. We are holding the banner. We are anchoring you being profitable, healthy, wealthy, and wise, and making a big impact in the world. So we'll make that happen. And remember always that sales is about having the right conversations with the right people at the right time about the right things. And when you do, magic happens. All right. So go do it.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
You got it. So I really hope you loved that conversation the same way I did. You can see the effortlessness and the excellence that Stephen brings to the process. So take advantage there. But I want you to also be able to be blessed, and we're starting to do something right now for a little bit. We're testing it and see. We don't typically just give out conversations just because I find that people don't tend to value what they don't pay for. Right. But I also know that I've had a lot of help from people who I didn't pay. And I want to make sure that we're consistently giving back to you. And this podcast is one of them. But another way to give back to you is if you want to get your calendars filled with the right motivated buyers in your market, right? We're here to help. We've generated, $250 million worth of sales. We do 25,000 sales conversations a year. We're experts. We are world-class. We are best in class. And I would love to have our team put brain on you and what you're doing and see how we can help you get some clarity and be more compelling to get people to want to show up on your calendar and talk about you helping them solve their problem with some great stories. Okay, so go to the show notes, just book a complimentary call with our team, and we'll guide you every step of the way. Okay, this is your host, Jim Padilla, and as always, honored. Go out and make the cash register ring and change some lives. Okay, remember that sales happens when you have the right conversations with the right people at the right time about the right things. We'll see you soon.